We're making 4 keto-friendly pie fillings. Let's go. I don't really like long introductions to my videos, but I do have to say a huge thank you to Anne-Marie, who's become my very first patron here on YouTube. I don't have a cookbook, but I do get asked quite often for written recipes, and I've chosen to store them on Patreon. If that's what you prefer, there's a link down in the description box. As promised, we're doing 4 pie fillings for you today. The first one being a creamy chicken and mushroom, which you've already seen tidbits of in the pie crust filling. And if you want a 0-carb pie crust, here's a link to that recipe. The second one is one of my favorites, and it's a beef, cheese and tomato filling. Now the third and fourth, I've been influenced by you guys for me to create a French Canadian tortilla, which is, depending on what meat you add, a meat pie or a pork pie. And the last one is, I think it's really becoming a favorite because it tastes a little bit like stuffing, and that is a Jamaican beef patty. For your convenience, I'm going to do timestamps for all the recipes so you can just jump straight to it, and you're going to have your nutritional information in the description box as well. Let's get into those recipes now. For the creamy chicken and mushroom filling, start by setting your burners to a medium heat. Add 1 tablespoon of olive oil, and when that's heated up, add 450 grams of diced chicken. Spread it around the base of the pan. Let that cook for a few minutes until the chicken turns white. Add 1 cup of sliced mushrooms and stir them into the chicken. Then 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, a teaspoon of garlic powder and 1 tablespoon of dried mixed herbs. Mix to fully combine and let that simmer for about 5 to 10 minutes to reduce the liquid. And this is how mine turned out. Just a little bit of liquid left. And now to prepare the creamy sauce. I've got 2 egg yolks here, and this is going to thicken the sauce instead of us using any flour, xanthan gum or cornstarch. To that, add 1 cup of heavy cream and a 1/4 cup of shredded mozzarella. Whisk that all together, then add it to the filling. Keep stirring for about 1 to 2 minutes. Turn off the heat, and as the filling cools, it will thicken even more. With all of the fillings, you would add it to a pre-baked pie crust, add any toppings, and by that I mean you can add shredded cheese or more herbs and spices, or just leave it plain. For this chicken filling, we are leaving it plain. Then add the pie topper, trim the edges, and bake for 5 to 10 minutes at 350 Fahrenheit or 176 Celsius. To make the beef, cheese and tomato filling, set your burners to a medium heat. Melt 2 tablespoons of butter, then add 1 1/4 pounds of ground beef. Break up the meat and let that brown. Season with 1 teaspoon of salt and 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 tablespoon of dried oregano and 1 tablespoon of basil, and mix to combine. Next, add 3 tablespoons of tomato paste, a 1/2 cup of passata or tomato cooking sauce, and Rotels is a really good brand, and lastly 1/2 cup of water. Let that simmer for about 10 minutes and you will notice the sauce thicken and become more of a pie filling consistency. But that's the filling all done. I usually top it off by first adding the filling on top of the pie crust, then spreading 1 cup of ricotta cheese and lastly 1 cup of grated cheese, but that's your choice. If you want to check that out, here's the completed pie, and a link to the recipe is in the top right hand corner. For the French Canadian tortilla or meat pie, heat up 1 tablespoon of olive oil. The meat is totally your choice, so go with what you have and just make sure it's ground. I added 1 pound of ground pork and 1/2 pound of ground beef. Then break up the meat and mix to combine, letting it brown, and this took me about 8 minutes. Then I added 1/3 cup of diced onion, 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, a half teaspoon of ground sage, a half teaspoon of dried thyme, a quarter teaspoon each of ground cloves, ground nutmeg, and ground cinnamon. Give it a stir just to flavor the meat and combine all those flavors. Then I added 2 tablespoons of butter just to keep the filling moist. And last but certainly not least, Jamaican beef patties. Heat up 2 tablespoons of olive oil and then add 1 pound of ground beef and break up the meat. Then add 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika, a half a teaspoon of allspice, and 1 teaspoon of dried thyme. Give that a mix to incorporate all of the flavors with the meat. And now for our greens. Add 50 grams of sliced scallion or green onion, and I have 2 jalapeno peppers here which I finely diced then added. Then stir all of that in. Next I added 1/3 of a cup of water just for a little more sauce. Stir that in, then turned off the heat, and that is all ready. I then just added a sprinkle of raw scallion for crunch. Whichever pie filling you choose, do have a taste of it at the end and see what you think and make adjustments. I hope you get to try any one of them and let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe and be well.